Is there any character that appears in a really popular film or TV show, a character that's insanely popular and beloved, and who people view as an inspirational game changer that you just don't get at all? I know, that's happened to me before, and every time I think about it, it just makes me feel like a pathetic contrarian. But yeah, I just don't get Elsa, and I kind of think she sort of sucks. And this isn't like oh, I don't like her personality or anything like that, but to me, she just seems like such a nothing character all around. Quite boring. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy Frozen as much as the next man. It's a classic. But I just can't shake this feeling of discontent about it. And by it, I mean Elsa's boring character. And I suppose we'd better start with a brief recap on her character arc throughout the first film, because the first film's the one that matters most. So yeah, Elsa is the eldest daughter of the king and queen, and the heir to the throne of Arendelle. Early on in her life, it was discovered that she had the power to create and manipulate ice, which is, well, that's a pretty cool power when you think about it. But in their society, maybe not so much, as her father actively discouraged her from using these powers and set her up to have extreme social anxiety stemming from the repression of these powers, which in turn leads to her powers being far more unstable than they usually would have been. Her parents, of course, since this is Disney, die, and the princesses go into social isolation until Elsa comes of age and has her coronation. It all goes wrong, eternal winter, Anna goes on a quest to save the day, Elsa accidentally turns her heart to ice, and she tries to fix things, betrayal by Hans, Anna saves the day again, sisterly love, hooray hurrah. All's well that ends well, and that's all well and good. You know, good stuff, great movie. It did well for itself, but the problem is, for me, it doesn't make Elsa a very interesting or engaging character to watch. Right, so we start off pretty well. We have Elsa, who has a lot of personal issues. A character who pretty much up and abandoned her sister, as it had been drilled into her that her powers were dangerous, and thus she thinks her sister would be far safer if she keeps her distance from her. She loses her cool pretty much instantly at the coronation after Anna tries to announce that she's going to get married to Prince Hans, a character that she'd only just met that day, which causes her to lash out, reveal her ice powers, and then she runs away, which is, you know, that's a pretty decent start of a storyline. She sings a whole song about letting go of expectations and what people think about her, which feels like a pretty heroic song, right? Which kind of implies that she's going to be the star of the film. But maybe not, because we then cut to Anna, who does most of the main protagonist stuff, and then Elsa freezes her sister by accident, she sets a giant ice monster on Anna and her companion, so maybe she's meant to be the villain, right? I mean, she goes nuts on those guard dudes that try to arrest her as well, and so maybe the film's going to be a descent into villainy only to be saved at the last moment type of thing. Nope, because Hans is actually the villain. Surprise! But of course, Anna needs rescuing. She needs to be saved from Elsa's magic, and the only person that can save her is surely Elsa. This is our time. It's the last minute Elsa saves the day, right? Nope, she doesn't. In fact, it is the opposite. Elsa is completely at the mercy of Hans, about to be executed, but then at the last second, it's Anna who saves the day in a grand showing of sisterly love. A grand showing that defeats Hans, allows Elsa to control her powers, and breaks the curse that Elsa had unwittingly put upon Anna. And so, in the end, Anna is the hero, and Hans is the villain, and Elsa's the nothing. And I really think this is where my discontent for the character of Elsa stems from. The majority of the other characters have a true role in the narrative. Anna's the hero, Kristoff, he's the sidekick, Sven's the animal companion, Olaf is comic relief, Hans is the villain, so on and so forth. But what is Elsa's role? She straddles the line of being both hero and villain, and yet ends up being neither. They don't commit to a choice, which is fine. That's very fine on the surface, but at the same time, when you do that sort of thing, when you straddle that hero-villain line, you need to develop the character. You need to devote time to it. You can't just have her be in a couple of scenes and feel like that's a done deal. Proper time needs to be given to a storyline like that, but it isn't. And so Elsa feels like a major afterthought in that way. She never gets time to develop, and thus instead of feeling like a bit of a hero or a bit of a villain, sitting somewhere in that morally grey space, she simply feels like a plot device. A reason for Anna and the others to do the things they do, but without any real narrative agency. And so, I guess this makes me wonder, why is she even popular? She feels like such a side character. But what is it that makes her cool? Is it her costume? The ice powers? The cool song? The fact that she's on literally all the merch? I mean, realistically, it is probably a combination of all those things. But yeah, she doesn't really do anything in her own film. Like, the film is called Frozen, and she's the character with the ice powers. You'd think the character with the ice powers would be the character you'd keep an eye out for, as they're clearly supposed to be the lead, right? Wrong. And another thing I question is, why is she held up as this symbol of empowerment and strength? Like, is she though? Is she? Because I'm not exactly sure that that's even the case. Does she break any barriers or subvert any real expectations? Like, seriously, I'm asking you, does she? I don't remember her doing that. And I'm really not convinced that she does. Like, They set her up to do that sort of thing, set her up for that sort of role, with her having a pretty shit home life and being a bit incredulous at the rapid advancement that Anna's romance has undergone, but then it all sort of ends. All of that prominent barrier breaking, the new way of telling the princess story, all of it literally gets channeled into Anna's storyline. It's Anna that channels that, completely and utterly, not Elsa. And so she doesn't even get that. She becomes the background character, but is once again held up as this groundbreaking and revolutionary Disney princess. Hell, I feel like Anna is way better as a character, and yet I don't think she's as popular. Nowhere near. Elsa, she's just so meh. And on top of that, she doesn't even feel likable, really. She starts off good, you know, young flashback scenes with Anna, yeah, that's all good. But then she's completely closed off and distant from her sister. She has a very brief moment where they sort of reconcile, but then it all goes to shit almost immediately with the whole Hans proposal. And then, yeah, the rest of the plot kind of hinges on this deep sisterly bond between Anna and Elsa. But that dynamic feels very forced, because we're told over and over how close they are and how much they love each other, but we never really see it. It's a classic case of telling, not showing, when the opposite is really what they should be doing. That's storytelling 101. You need the audience to see these things. Hearing about them does not deliver the same punch, the same impact. And so for me, much of that subplot really does fall flat. Anna's side, that's a lot better. It can be salvaged, as we spend so much time with her throughout the film, and you can piece together more of her love for her sister. After all, her whole quest is built around trying to bring her home, so it fills in those blanks quite nicely. But for Elsa, no. Not so much. Doesn't really have that same effect when she spends most of the movie brooding in her ice tower off screen. Know what I mean? Same deal in the second film, really. Elsa goes off to do her own thing, and then it's Anna following along behind, the dedicated companion. And so once again, you don't get that same bond. Hell, honestly, the second film for me, deeply forgettable anyway. Apart from Christoph's glorious power ballad. Oh, beautiful. And so yeah, for me, I just don't see the appeal for Elsa. She just seems like such a nothing character. I don't get why she's beloved. I don't get why she's popular. And good songs and ice powers, that does not an interesting character make. But who knows, maybe I'm being unfair or maybe I'm insane. You decide. So yeah, that's really all there is to say. And so now I'll throw it to you. What do you think about Elsa? Do you agree with my take? Do you think she's a pretty boring, bland, lame character? Or maybe not. Maybe you think she's great, the second coming of Jesus. I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.